were done, and that was my big worry. Later on, I cheated. I turned the lights up so damn bright they could see. Around 5 p.m., the first wave of the evacuees arrived from Saigon, and Operation Frequent Wind began. Flight deck, as all of you realize, is a hazardous place at any time. But at night, and full of civilians, it could be deadly. To make sure the chaos was controlled, I authorized Midway's Marine detachment the use of deadly force if necessary to disarm everyone as they came on board. It's hard to imagine that some of the Huey helicopters arrived. I see you were around here. He was one of those smaller guys. You'll find him on the flight deck. There were as many as 50 people on board that little bitty helicopter. The Hueys were designed to carry a squad of 10 Army or 10 Marines heavily armed for combat, not 50 civilians with luggage. Even in the best of conditions, emergency happened. On cue. Even in the best of conditions, oops. Well, that's really appropriate. Even in the best of conditions, emergency happened. And at about 0200 on the evening of the first day, Hancock experienced a crash on deck, and her foul deck was closed to helicopter operations. She had 8 helicopters airborne at that time, and they were all full of evacuees. We cleared a couple of spots on the bow, and we began refueling the Hancock helicopters. The first helicopter we served had about 5 to 10 minutes worth of fuel left. During that time, we brought them aboard 2 at a time, and we kind of bootstrapped them, got them all topped off. And about that time, we were going to start bringing their refugees on board. Hancock cleared her fire, pushed it over the side, so we disaster was averted. And we call that, and still do, Midway Magic. On Wednesday, 30 April, the U.S. Ambassador to South Vietnam, Mr. Graham Martin, was one of the last people to be evacuated from the embassy, along with my Naval Academy roommate, Captain Hughden, who at that time was the CPAC rep on the ambassador's staff. In the middle of the chaos on day 2, they sent the bird dog arrived on the scene. It was obvious to me that he wanted to land. Admiral Harris ordered me to tell the pilot to ditch. He was not my operational boss at the time, but he was still on that flag bridge up there raising hell. Anyway, the pilot circled several times, dropped a couple of notes, they all went over the side. And finally, I think either the 3rd or 4th note, he had wrapped it around his pistol and he dropped it on deck. And there was a crash truck parked, and the pistol with the note hit the crash truck and it stayed on board. And the note read, "Can you move these helicopters to the other side? I can land on your runway. I can fly 1 hour more. Signed, Major Bob, wife, and 5 child." We were 100 nautical miles at sea, and he didn't have enough gas to make it back to the beach. I ordered Vern Jumper, and he's sitting over there, to make a ready deck. Vern suggested that I had lost my mind, but I told him I would give him some help. Then I got on the ship's general announcing system, and I ordered all air wing and air department people not on watch to report to the flight deck to give help. Well, as it turns out, not only did we get the air department and the air wing personnel on the flight deck, I think somewhere in that melee, about 2,000 men showed up for the working party to help Vern make a ready deck. I told the chief engineer I needed more wind over the deck to tell Major Lee to stop his aircraft. My chief engineer had to get real creative to make that happen. We were operating helicopters, and we had somewhere between 15 and 18 knots of natural wind, and I didn't need, the ship could be dead in the water. We could handle the helicopters. And so I had given the chief engineer permission to take a couple of boilers offline for maintenance. We were operating helicopters, didn't need it, and all of a sudden, we had to get a lot of wind over the deck. And so chief engineer wanted to know where in the hell I was going to get the extra steam from. Then I told him to shut down 2 of the steam-driven generators, and we had 2 emergency diesels. I think they've all been removed. And so shifted the electric load to the emergency diesels to get enough steam to get 40 knots of wind over the deck. I figured that little airplane had an approach speed somewhere around 60 knots. If I got 40 knots of wind over the deck, that he was going to have to try real hard to catch me. But I knew we had enough runway at that point. With that much wind over the deck, I probably had the equivalent of about 2,500 foot runway. And I didn't know how much experience Major Lee had in his airplane, but I think he had probably somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 hours. And first of all, you got to be a total idiot to come out and think you've never made a carry landing in his life, and find a carry out there that's totally clobbered, and to think that somebody's going to push $100 million worth of stuff over the side to give him permission to land. 2 of us together. He lost his mind first, and I had the Admiral yelling at me. I lost mine. Look, I didn't own any of those. Not a single thing I pushed over the side had U.S. Navy on it. It had U.S. Air Force, Army, Air America. I didn't own them. So I gave the Major a little help by clearing the runway for him. And I told the chief engineer I was going to need a little more steam, and he got a little huffy, but when I told him to shut down, transfer the electrical load to the emergency diesel. But after turning into the wind, but prior to giving Major Lee's airplane, by the way, we had no communications, so the only way we could use it, we signaled them with the Aldous lamps. Red light, you can land. Green light, deck's clear. And just as we had turned into the wind, everything was all set up. 8 more Hueys out of Saigon landed right in the middle of the deck. Vern wanted to know, what the hell are we going to do now? And I told Vern, 8 more over the side wasn't going to make any difference in how long I spent in jail. After his successful landing, Midway's crew was so impressed with Major Lee that they collected over $10,000 in 1975. That was big bucks. And we forwarded it to him to help him and his family get settled in America. I don't know how much of it got to him, but that's what it was when we left here. In the midst of the ongoing chaos, I had a brief interview with Major Lee on the bridge. I took off my wings, and I had the Major up there. I gave him my wings and made him a naval aviator right on the spot. I mean, you've got to be crazy. It's something he's never done in his life before. Before any of these aviators around here ever saw a carrier, they made thousands of landings on the beach to teach them how to make carry landings. And this guy walks out there and decides that he's going to become one. Look, he's the bravest man I've ever met in my life, and I must be the dumbest one to think that we could make it happen, okay? But anyway, he's here to tell you his story, and all I can say is we got honored at Sun and Fun Air Show over in Lakeland, Florida, and we both got presented nice trophies. But he's the bravest guy I ever know, and all I was a real estate manager. I just cleared the runway to give him a shot at it.
Yep.
I got a few more notes. So what do you got? Okay. After that incident, we could still continue to receive helicopters from Saigon, but it was starting to wind down, and the tanks were about to overrun the embassy. And the last person to arrive on board Midway was the ambassador, the American ambassador to South Vietnam, and he arrived about noon or so after the major incident, and along with the ambassador was my Naval Academy roommate. At that time he was a captain, and he was CPAC's rep on the ambassador's staff. Almost 2 years later, at my change of command ceremony, when my tour on Midway was over, I learned from the team, they came to understand that Rear Admiral Harris was thwarting my good intentions. There was a jump that came alongside while we were doing something else, and we were marginal as to whether we were in Thai waters or international waters. And you know, on the international waters, a vessel in distress, I have no choice but to handle the problem. Well, the Admiral sent his navigator to my bridge. He took around the bearings and said, I was in Thai waters, and so, as usual, I manned the forecastle, took the main engines off the jacking gear, and I twisted the ship so we were totally in international waters. And at this point, now I've got to rescue the boat, so we brought everybody aboard, and I sent my damage control team down and told them to fix the boat. And once they repaired it, we put the people back on and sent them on their way. And we were doing another operation at the time that really had my attention. And I didn't pay any attention, so 4 or 5 hours later I called to find out what the hell they were doing. And I got the word back that my damage control team, which could probably have built the boat, said they couldn't fix it. And so as far as I was concerned, I had plenty of refugees that were going to go to Guam with us, and 80 more. I left 500 sailors on the beach. You know, I mean 500 big guys. And I could have handled 1,000 Vietnamese with the same amount of food and logistics. So there was no sweat on the part of Midway to take care of the people. And in any case, at my change of command, somebody walked up to me, and I had already been promoted, and I'd been relieved as skipper, and at the farewell party, they were honoring me, and they gave me a bell, and I wonder, what's this ship bell for? And the bosun's face finally said, Captain, do you remember that junk that was alongside? We were in Bunktown, and I said, absolutely, you guys couldn't fix it. Well, I embarrassed them. They said, what do you mean we couldn't fix it? We chopped a hole in the damn boat so we'd get you out of jail. And I said, well, I'm going to court-martial you guys. And they said, no, you can't, because you're no longer in charge. Anyway, the bird dog now hangs at the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, where a copy of the note that the major dropped on the flight deck is on display. Bird Dog was given to the Navy by Chief of Staff of the Army. At that time, my little brother was a colonel, and he was Chief of Staff, was householder to the Chief of Staff of the Army. And I wrote Andy a note and said, Andy, this airplane is in terrible shape. I don't want to destroy it. I think we want to send it to the museum, and we need the Army's permission. And so my brother took the Chief of Staff a note, got him to sign, and they gave the airplane to the Navy. That airplane is in perfectly good working order and great shape, but I didn't think the Army would give the Navy a damn thing if they thought it was any good. So we got away with that one. But if you're in Pensacola, take a look. It's still hanging in the overhead. By the way, my wife ratted on me and told Midway that I had the note framed and was hanging in my library. And reluctantly, I donated that note to the museum. They now have the actual note, and they made a museum quality copy and sent it to me. And frankly, I can't tell the difference, but they've got the original. So that's my contribution. In 2014, Major Lee and I were both honored at Sun and Fun Air Show in Lakeland, Florida, for outstanding feats in aviation. But we know who performed the outstanding feat, and he's going to be interviewed here shortly. And I was just managing the real estate. The Lee family now lives in Orlando, Florida. The Major and I first met again in 1989 when the Bird Dog was dedicated at the Naval Aviation Museum. And again in 2014, we were both being honored at the Sun and Fun Air Show in Lakeland. And during that time, the Major bought 4 of his kids and a bunch of grandkids. And we both had pictures taken in front of an Army Bird Dog that was borrowed for the occasion. And I think Lee now have at least 8 grandchildren. So at Sun and Fun, I found out Mrs. Lee could not swim, and that the Major had no intentions of ever going to ditch that airplane in the South China Sea. And that was my thought. I figured if I didn't give him a chance to land, he was going to crash it on deck anyway. So either way, I was going to lose. So the only thing I could do was clear the deck and give him a shot at it. But thanks to the successful humanitarian efforts of the crew of Midway, there are many productive and loyal Vietnamese American citizens in our country. These brave Vietnamese patriots and the dedicated sailors and Marines of Midway are the real heroes of the evacuation. I feel very proud to have been a participant in this little fiasco, and thank you very much for listening to this old guy.
Phải tặng thưởng ông nữa cái gì vậy?
Wow, what a presentation! Many of you, that will be the only time that you will hear it straight from the man himself. Let's give him another round of applause. Well, it's hard for any of us to imagine the thoughts of a desperate man on a zero-fail mission. But we do not have to imagine, because today you will hear from the man himself, Mr. Bung Lee. After completing his flight training in Texas in 1965, Major Lee would go back to Vietnam and go on to serve to defend the Republic of Vietnam until the very last day. So please give a warm welcome to the stage the bravest man Admiral Chambers has ever known, Major Bung Lee.
everyone.
Hello!
My name is Bửng Lý, and you can call me Lý Bửng.
Okay, Lieber.
Today is my honor to be here to tell you the story how the little bulldog to be displayed in this museum. On April 30th, 1975, when Saigon fell,
Yes.
my life was in danger. So I used the small airplane took off from Island in Vietnam with my wife and my 5 children aboard, searching for the satellite. After the half an hour flight over the South China Sea, I saw a lot of helicopters flying in the same direction. It made me believe there was something out there they can depend on. So I followed the same direction. A few minutes later, I saw a big boat with a lot of helicopters and American jet. That made me believe there was those helicopters escaped too. But I didn't have the radio with me. I didn't have the radio because I didn't have the headset with me. So I cannot communication and ask for the tower for landing. When I told this to my grandchildren, the youngest asked me, "Is nobody have a cell phone to use?"
No cell phone.
Anyway, I'm circled around the ship many times, finding the way to let them know I want to land on their runway. Then I decide to drop the note to the deck. The first 3 notes bow off to the sea, and the 4th one stay on. And I saw someone run into it and ran back inside in the hurry. And I tried to circle, and I tried to rock my wing. I tried to turn on and off the landing light. I tried to let them know I want to land. But all I received, a red light. So I kept circle around and I prayed for the miracle. And then I decide to drop note. I'm sorry, I have to repeat that. And I saw I lost my side of my family, but I was not worried because I know they are in a good hand. The hand of America and the hand of the freedom. And now, I keep circle around the ship, and I saw a green line. It made me believe they ready to let me land. But now, my airplane didn't have the tailboat, and I never land on the aircraft carrier before.